Okay, today we're going to be discussing the new DBE rules that went into effect. They call it the IFR, the Interim Final Rule regarding DBE goals for U.S. highway construction projects or U.S. DOT construction projects. So ultimately what had happened is, commencing October 3rd, 2025, essentially the U.S. government is saying, hey, I'm going to cut funding to states to subsidize highway construction projects, DOT construction projects, if you don't chop out the DBE requirements. Ultimately, what they're trying to accomplish here is reestablish how the DBE requirements are made and how DBE is even qualified, because right now the issue is there's certain groups that are presumed to be disadvantaged, and in that interim final rule they address that there's two similarly situated small businesses that are facing different standards solely upon race, ethnicity, or sex, and that the presumptions had no logical endpoint. So some of these DBE rules that were put in place to help jumpstart certain groups of folks based off of race, ethnicity, or sex, there was no endpoint to it. And now this preferencing has been incredibly problematic, to the point where I've seen in certain states, in certain situations, where it was like a racket. Where we see DBE goals being met primarily is with trucking. Why? Trucking in a lot of civil construction projects is, if it's not the highest dollar amount, it's one of the closest dollar amounts. So as I know a lot of you project engineers, it's the low-hanging fruit to achieve your DBE goals. Well, you got a project where you're seeing trucking contracts, some absolutely enormous trucking contracts, go to the same group of DBE trucking companies year after year, letting after letting, and you look at some of these fleet sizes and go, they got 70 trucks. They're not disadvantaged. You kidding me? So that's where kind of that loophole, if you will, or the gaping hole in the DBE program's got to get plugged. So the U.S. government is not chopping the DBE program. They're saying, hey, man, we got to reevaluate this and create new standards for how DBE is going to be qualified going forward. And just reading this, it says the objective intended to ensure that the DBE program operates in a non-discriminatory manner and without regard to race or sex. So yes, DBE program, you can't just say, well, all right, I'm going to use, my last name's Gomez. If Hispanic, then give them preference on a job. If woman, give them preference on a job. No, if disadvantaged, they get preference on the job. So that this way, you're not disadvantaged. Once you get to a certain size, I mean, it should be gone. That's it. Getting two contracts year in and year out, you're not disadvantaged anymore. You shouldn't be in that class anymore. And the other thing is, I do believe that the DBE program still has to remain. Otherwise, you'll start getting large national companies getting these projects instead, building up their own corporate fleets of trucks. I'm using trucking as an example, could be construction, but the idea behind keeping that DBE program is to make sure that large companies don't come in and they're the ones always getting performance contracts on these construction projects year in, year out. So it's still allowing those small businesses to be able to participate, grow, and succeed within the marketplace. And that's it. Thank you.